Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and the lawsuit over their secret phone tapes.
It is the voice of Tom and Nicole. It's a highly personal tape.
Tom is allowing his attorney to talk to only one show, and that's Entertainment Tonight.
They were enraged. They were humiliated.
He says the tapes were illegally recorded, spliced together. Now he reveals part of their tape conversation.
Nicole is ill. She went into the hospital shortly after that.
A now healthy Nicole and husband Tom plan to sue the Globe and will seek criminal charges against the tabloid and whoever gave them the tape.
I believe we will have him within the next 2 or 3 days.
This man is usually behind the camera taking pictures of the rich and the famous, but tonight he's on the other side of the lens, in trouble, accused of electronic eavesdropping. He's accused of taking something from this very famous couple, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Something very personal, very intimate, something they assumed was private. He's accused of taking from them a conversation. Good evening, everybody. It's 11 o'clock, and I'm Paul Moyer.
And I'm Colleen Williams.
We begin tonight with the charges against that paparazzo. Police claim he invaded the privacy of his famous victims with electronic gear. Then he sold his prize, that purloined conversation, to the tabloids. The conversation reportedly included a spat about the famous Cruise-Kidman marriage. Patrick Healy is live in Studio City tonight, where the suspect lives, with more about that paparazzo. Patrick?
Paul, Colleen, it happened that Nicole Kidman, was filming a movie and making calls with a cellular phone not far from this location here, the home of her now accused eavesdropper. Tonight he's free on bond but not saying a word. Eric Ford, accused of electronically eavesdropping on a telephonic marital spat between showbiz couple Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Hang on to your husbands, girls.
Kidman was filming the movie Practical Magic on location in Studio City last February when she used a cell phone to call her husband Cruise at home. Apparently unbeknownst to them, the call was intercepted and tape recorded with what authorities described as a modified radio wave scanner. Accounts of the conversation later appeared in 2 tabloids, including the June 30 issue of The Globe, depicting friction in the Cruise-Kidman marriage.
What I think sets this case apart is it's not just the wiretapping, but it was actually sold to a tabloid publication.
Gessner described defendant Ford as a paparazzo. If convicted, he could face 15 years in a federal pen. But the prosecutor denies it was celebrities' influence that made this a federal case.
I think that this is a crime that is only going to occur to celebrities.
Do you think you're getting a fair shake? And so it was that after posting a $10,000 bond, the man accused of making and selling the illegal recording of celebrity voices chose not to have his voice recorded. The Globe issued a statement saying it had done nothing wrong. Interestingly enough, the Globe is not being prosecuted, only the man who allegedly provided the alleged ill-gotten information. Live in Studio City, Patrick Healy, Channel 4 News. Paul, Colleen?
All right, good enough, Patrick. Thanks for the live report. You know, you don't have to be a movie star for somebody to eavesdrop on you. We'll show you how cell phones, cordless phones, and even another simple object in your home could be broadcasting your private conversations without you even knowing it. Later on tonight on the Channel 4 News here at 11.
No comment from the 27-year-old who was arrested by FBI agents at his Studio City home on charges of intercepting a phone call, but not just any call, a private conversation between super couple Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
My understanding is that Ms. Kidman was using a cell phone somewhere near the set of the movie Practical Magic, and Mr. Cruise was, I believe, at home.
But prosecutors say Ford didn't just listen in, he actually recorded part of the couple's call.
We are alleging that after he wiretapped the phone conversation, in other words, tape recorded it, that he then furnished it to the tabloid The Globe, as well as to another publication, News of the World.
The attorneys wouldn't comment on the nature of the call, but The Globe reported on June 30th that Cruise and Kidman were reportedly having an argument over their nearly 8-year marriage. According to The Globe, a woman believed to be Kidman tells the man their marriage is, quote, hanging by a thread. Attorneys wouldn't say how much Ford was paid by The Globe. No public comment yet from Cruise or Kidman. Now, if convicted, Ford faces up to 15 years in federal prison. He is out on $10,000 bond tonight. He is expected back in court on Monday to enter his plea. We are live downtown. Back to you, Terry.
And by the way, Ted, the tabloid newspapers involved in this case have not been charged. The Globe issued a statement denying any wrongdoing. Hal?
That started an FBI probe, and today this man, 27-year-old Eric Ford, appeared in federal court. He faces 3 counts of felony wiretapping. Ford allegedly used a scanner and a frequency finder to tap into the Cruz's cell phone conversation.
Federal prosecutors say this man was listening in and hoping to cash in. He's 27-year-old freelance tabloid photographer Eric Ford in court today. Ford's facing a 3-count federal indictment for illegal wiretapping.
Bond was set for Mr. Ford at $10,000. He'll be back in court in this building Monday morning to enter a plea to the charges.
Ford's facing 15 years in prison if convicted on all counts. Prosecutors say Ford used a simple radio frequency scanner like this one, modified to intercept and record cellular phone calls. Then he allegedly monitored Kidman until she made a personal call he could sell to the tabloids. The Globe tabloid ran a story based on that intercepted call. The Globe says Cruz and Kidman appear to be having a deeply personal conversation, with Kidman at one point reportedly saying the couple's 7.5-year marriage was, quote, hanging by a thread.
And we're hoping that this does send a message that it's not okay to wiretap conversations and then sell them to publications.
The man is photographer Eric Ford, who tried to avoid cameras when he was released from jail. He's accused of illegally recording a cell phone conversation between the celebrity couple and selling it to the tabloids. His mother says he's a nice guy.
And he is not one of the vicious paparazzi who would chase them down, who would be in their face. He's not one of the people that Tom is really trying to get rid of.
Vicious lies about me and my family.
The more popular they become, the more likely they will have to keep fighting. But for now, it appears they've won a round. Ford faces 3 felony counts, and if he's convicted, he could be sentenced to 15 years in prison. Reporting live from Hollywood, I'm Jason Carroll, CBS 2 News.
A part of Tom and Nicole's life that's not over is their court case against Eric Ford. Today, the 27-year-old man entered a plea of not guilty to 3 charges of wiretapping the couple's phone. Ford allegedly used a scanner to record an argument between the two and then reportedly sold details to a tabloid. Tom and Nicole may have to testify during the trial that begins February 9th.
A tabloid photographer walking out of court with a federal prosecutor in downtown LA this morning. Eric Ford is the photographer charged with electronically intercepting a phone call between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Ford is charged with violating federal wiretapping laws. It is the first case of its kind ever in Southern California. And good morning again. I'm Kathy Vara.
And I'm Ted Chen in for Kent Schocknick.
And our top story at 11:30 a.m. It is an unprecedented case in Southern California. A tabloid tipster accused of illegally eavesdropping on a phone conversation between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. This morning, he has been arraigned. Manny Medrano is live now. He attended the arraignment in downtown L.A., and he joins us from the federal building with details. Manny?
Good morning, Kathy. Well, I was in federal court today for the arraignment of Eric Ford, and of course, he's out on $10,000 bail. He had to be there as well, and I'll tell you, this is a case that the feds are taking very, very seriously. Perhaps a further indication that they're trying to strike back against very aggressive paparazzi, and as a result, the defendant in this case now faces the prospect of 30 years in federal prison. Eric Ford scampered out of the federal courthouse this morning after pleading not guilty to 3 counts of federal wiretapping. Ford made no comment as he evaded cameras. The 27-year-old Sherman Oaks paparazzo is accused of illegally intercepting a mobile phone call that Nicole Kidman made earlier this year to her husband Tom Cruise as she left the set of the movie Practical Magic. Authorities allege that Eric Ford used a modified radio frequency scanner to eavesdrop, then shot the tape to several tabloid and entertainment shows before selling it to the Globe. The tabloid ran a story on the tape conversation in its June 30 issue.
He's charged in an indictment with 3 counts. First, with illegally intercepting a wire communication that carries a 5-year penalty, a statutory maximum. He's also charged with disclosing that information to the Globe and also to News of the World. And those also both carry a 5-year statutory maximum.
This is the first time this kind of case has been filed in Los Angeles. If the case goes to trial, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman will have to take the stand.
Well, since they were the individuals involved in the conversation, then certainly they would be witnesses to what happened. And I would predict that, yes, if in fact this case were to go to trial, they would be called as witnesses. This should certainly put people on notice that it is illegal to intercept wire communications, and certainly that it's illegal to disclose the contents of these communications. And people should expect some privacy in their private communications.
Now, trial in this case is set for February 9 in federal court, and again, because the purported victims in this case are Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, they would have to set foot in the federal courthouse directly behind me to testify as witnesses. Reporting live from the downtown federal courthouse, I'm Manny Medrano. Ted, Kathy, back to you in Burbank.
Thank you very much, Manny. Now to Washington for breaking developments in the impeachment crisis.
That tabloid photographer charged with illegally intercepting a phone call between Kidman and Cruise and selling it to 2 outlets. Well, today, 27-year-old Eric Ford, who you see here jogging into court, entered a plea of not guilty on those federal charges and running to do so. A trial date has been set for February 9th. I bet you he won't be running to that.
I doubt it.
But he had to face the flashbulbs and video lens on his first day in federal court last week. Today's picture was right after he pled not guilty to unprecedented federal charges that he tapped into a private telephone conversation. Ford appeared before federal magistrate Virginia Phillips for just 5 minutes, denying allegations that could send him to prison for 15 years. He is accused of intercepting a cell phone conversation between 2 of Hollywood's hottest properties, Tom Cruise and his wife Nicole. Contents of their heated lovers' spat were recorded, transcribed, and sold to 2 tabloid publications, The Globe and News of the World. Nicole and Cruise were allegedly arguing, using provocative language about each other and their shaky relationship at home at the time. The invasion of privacy phone conversations is a serious matter, according to the government, who has a simple message.
It's important to the extent that it should send the message to individuals that this type of behavior is prohibited by law and that it does carry serious criminal penalties.
The prosecutor said she would call Cruise and Kidman to testify should this case reach the trial stage. Their appearance on the witness stand could publicly expose any illegally taped contents of their telephone conversation, that their marriage was hanging by the threads, as reported by the tabloids. In downtown Los Angeles, Warren Wilson, KTLA News.
This is believed to be the first case of its kind in the United States, a paparazzo making a recording of a private conversation between celebrities and then peddling it with the hopes of making money. The feds say it's a federal offense, wiretapping.
Against your client?
No, I don't expect
Paparazzi Eric Ford had this to say to actors Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Yes, I would like to apologize to Tom and Nicole. I'm sorry.
Ford pleaded guilty to illegally intercepting a cell phone conversation between the 2, tape recording it, and then selling the information to several tabloids. It happened last year when Kidman called her husband from the set of the movie Practical Magic. Ford's attorney Eric Chase said his paparazzi client stumbled onto the conversation using a scanner and that it was all an accident.
He was attempting to listen for walkie-talkie traffic so he could find out when certain stars were going to be traveling between their trailers and the set so he could make legal photographs of them.
But what is no accident to the U.S. Attorney's Office is Ford's decision to tape record the conversation.
We are trying to send a message that it's illegal to wiretap on other people's conversations, and that if you do that, you face the possibility of being prosecuted and being sentenced.
Ford's attorney says he was caught because Tom Cruise went on the counterattack and pitted one paparazzi against another.
It's clear that Tom Cruise, through his attorney, is paying someone who is exactly like Eric Ford $100,000 or between $50,000 and $100,000 for turning him in.
Ford will be sentenced in May. Because of a plea agreement, he will likely get between 6 months and a year behind bars and a fine of up to $20,000. Chuck, back to you.
Yes, I would like to apologize to Tom and Nicole. I'm sorry.
He's one of the paparazzi. Today, he's on camera. He admitted intercepting a cell phone call from Nicole Kidman to Tom Cruise and selling a taped recording of that call to a London tabloid. Good afternoon, I'm Mark Brown.
I'm Michelle Tuzzi. It's our top story at 4:30. His case is believed to be the first of its kind here in Los Angeles. And sorry or not, this young photographer's guilty plea could lead to a fine and a jail sentence. Eyewitness News reporter Brian Jenkins is in the studio now with the details for us. Brian?
Well, Michelle, he says intercepting a private phone conversation between actors Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman was accidental. But recording it and later selling it to a tabloid made it a crime. So now celebrity photographer Eric Ford may have to do some time. Paparazzi photographer Eric Ford walked out of a U.S. courtroom today facing the possibility of spending the next year in jail. Ford pled guilty to federal wiretapping charges arising from an incident last February in which he used a modified radio scanner to eavesdrop on a mobile phone conversation between Nicole Kidman and husband Tom Cruise.
He was attempting to listen for walkie-talkie traffic so he could find out when certain stars were going to be traveling between their trailers and the set, so he could make legal photographs of them simply walking from their from their trailers to the set. And accidentally, the cell phone conversation started coming over his scanner.
Mr. Cruise and Ms. Kidman were having a telephone conversation. It was intercepted and it was tape recorded. That is wiretapping.
The conversation allegedly included comments from Kidman that her 8-year marriage with Cruise was, quote, hanging by a thread. Ford later sold the recorded conversation to the Globe tabloid. To date, he apologized.
Yes, I would like to apologize to Tom and Nicole. I'm sorry.
And here's a twist. Ford's lawyer accuses Tom Cruise of paying a substantial amount of money to another member of the paparazzi to do the same thing to Ford that Ford did to Cruise. In effect, ratting out his private conversations.
One of his, we'll call him a colleague, is being paid somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 for turning Mr. Ford in. And so, in effect, what's happened is Mr. Cruise is paying a paparazzi who is benefiting financially, trading on Mr. Cruise's celebrity. So, as he expresses his displeasure with what's happening and what's happened here, in some ways, he's helping.
Chase refused to name the person allegedly being paid by Cruise. He says his more immediate concern is his 27-year-old client, who now could face from 6 months to a year in prison when he returns to court in May for sentencing. Mark?
Well, back here in Hollywood today, the man who intercepted a mobile telephone call between Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise pleaded guilty to federal wiretapping charge. 27-year-old Eric Ford came out of the courtroom and publicly apologized to Kidman and Cruise.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, that's all I can say. I wish this wasn't public, but I understand for Tom and Nicole, it's very public for them.
Well, Ford is facing up to a year in prison and a fine up to $20,000 when he is sentenced in May. Pat.
I understand it's very private for them. And again, I'm sorry.
While Ford is apologetic to Tom and Nicole, he still faces a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine.
It's not over yet, but I've learned a lesson. I'm not going to do it again.
The California man used a modified radio scanner to listen to the call between Cruise and Kidman while they reportedly were having an argument. But today, Ford's attorney tried to turn the tables on Cruise when he accused the star of paying off the tipster who went to the police.
He is not acting unlike the tabloids act in paying money to someone who attempts to trade in their celebrity.
Mr. Cruise and Ms. Kidman were having a telephone conversation. It was intercepted and it was tape recorded. That is wiretapping.